It's Thursday, January 29th. In the headlines, grant disbursements for Hurricane Melissa survivors set to begin by month's end. In business news, former JSE head Dr. Marlene Street Forrest now on Fosrich board. Regionally, new bills are tabled to strengthen the Bahamas' response to climate change. And in sports, under 17 reggae girls build momentum with Aruba win in CONCACAF qualifiers. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. Jamaicans affected by Hurricane Melissa will start to receive grants by the end of this month under the Shelter Recovery Program, SRP. The confirmation came from Minister of Education, Skills, Youth and Information, Senator Dr. Dana Morris-Dixon, during a post-cabinet press briefing at Jamaica House on Wednesday. Launched on January 15, the SRP is a national initiative to assist households whose homes were damaged by Hurricane Melissa in October last year.
The first payments under the Shelter Recovery Program to those affected would take place by the last week in January. This is the last week in January, and I confirmed with the minister this morning, Minister Charles, that we are on track to make first payments this week.
Support will be delivered through 6 streams, including the restoration of owner or occupant family shelters grant, government and partnership-led repairs, National Housing Trust assistance, modular housing solutions, and relocation or regularization.
We would have spoken about modular homes that had been ordered. Those homes are expected in the country by the end of February. So you'd have heard of the NHT ones and also some from the ministry responsible for housing. And so those are in train.
Payments will be made through a range of channels, including digital vouchers, prepaid or payment cards, direct bank deposits, and approved remittance options with checks issued only in exceptional cases. The government says repairs to nearly 200 roads damaged by Hurricane Melissa should be completed by the end of March under a $1.7 billion emergency program. The update came from Minister with Responsibility for Works at Wednesday's post-cabinet media briefing. Nearly 3 months after Hurricane Melissa battered sections of the island's road network, the government says repairs are moving ahead under the Graded Overlay Emergency Road Rehabilitation Program, known as the GO program. Works Minister Robert Morgan says the initiative, which began in December, will target approximately 200 roads island-wide.
We did say that a majority of these resources will be spent in the western parishes that were most devastated by Hurricane Melissa. But the reality of it is that all across the island, there is damage to roads.
Of the $1.7 billion allocation, $500 million has been earmarked for Kingston and St. Andrew, covering major corridors such as Mannings Hill Road, Washington Boulevard, Red Hills Road, and sections of Stony Hill. Clarendon is set to receive $206 million for road rehabilitation, while St. James will benefit from $130 million, with an additional $100 million allocated for Montpelier.
The entire Mobile Township will be repaired. Barnes Street, St. James Street, Howard Cook Boulevard, and also Anchovy to Shuttlewood and Reading to Anchovy will be repaired as well. We'll be spending $100 million, $107 million in Trelawney. And that includes Salt Marsh, Bengal Bridge, Falmouth, Duncans, Long Pond, Highgate, Stettin, Wire Fence, Warsop, Jacksontown.
And Westmoreland will receive $100 million. Minister Morgan stressed that the GO program is separate from other ongoing efforts to repair roads washed away by the hurricane. The government is moving to close what it says is a critical gap in Jamaica's fight against cybercrime. New amendments to the Cybercrimes Act will target not just those carrying out online scams, but also property owners who knowingly allow their premises to be used as bases for criminal operations. The proposed changes were outlined by Minister with Responsibility for Science, Technology and Special Projects, Dr. Andrew Wheatley, during a post-cabinet media briefing on Wednesday. We have more in this report from Danita Rodney.
The Cybercrimes Amendment Act 2026 is set to introduce new offenses aimed at disrupting organized cybercrime networks by holding facilitators accountable. Speaking at a post-cabinet press briefing at the office of the Prime Minister in Kingston, Minister Andrew Wheatley said the proposed legislation recognizes the role physical locations play in supporting large-scale cybercrime operations. Dr. Wheatley explained that the bill creates a specific offense for persons who knowingly allow their properties to be used to facilitate cybercriminal activities.
Another key component is accountability for premises used for cybercrime. It creates a clear offense where persons responsible for premises knowingly permit those premises to be used for cybercrime activities, and comes with very serious penalties, imprisonment up to 15 years.
The bill also strengthens investigative standards, updating the Interception of Communications Act, and ensures investigations are carried out with clear legal and procedural safeguards.
We have also updated the Interception of Communication Act to ensure that the legislation so defines the terminologies that are consistent with this current amendment to the Cybercrimes Amendment Act, especially as relates to digital and electronic keys.
The minister says the measures are designed to dismantle organized scam networks by targeting both offenders and those who enable them.
Put simply, ladies and gentlemen, this bill is about protecting Jamaicans in a borderless digital world. It's about building trust in online spaces, strengthening deterrence, and ensuring that as Jamaican digitalizes, our law keep pace with modern technology and modern threats. This is a clear signal that Jamaica will not allow scammers, cyber criminals, and online predators to exploit our people, our system with impunity.
For the news on PBCJ, I am Danita Rodney.
Wards of the state who excelled in the 2025 CSEC and CAPE examinations are being honored by the Child Protection and Family Services Agency, CPFSA. A total of 64 students from the agency's 4 regions will be recognized for earning passes in 4 or more subjects. Special awards will go to top regional CSEC performers, while the National Top Boy and Top Girl Awards will be presented by the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information. The CPFSA says it invests more than $80 million annually in their tuition, examination fees, and educational supplies from early childhood through to tertiary level. Time now for the business report with Denise Williams.
Welcome to today's business report. I'm Denise Williams, bringing you the developments shaping markets, capital access, and business decision-making across Jamaica and the region. Let's get into the stories that matter. Lighting and energy company Phosphorish has announced the appointment of Dr. Marlene Street-Forrest to its board of directors effective January 9, 2026. Dr. Street-Forrest recently retired from the Jamaica Stock Exchange as its longest-serving managing director. The Fosrich board warmly welcomes Dr. Street Forrest and is confident that her extensive experience, leadership, and professional expertise will significantly contribute to the board's effectiveness and support the company's strategic direction and long-term growth objectives. 2 weeks after her retirement from the JSC, Dr. Street Forrest announced the launch of Street Forrest Business Consultancy Limited, which is uniquely positioned to help companies list on the equities market, help markets evolve, and help policymakers design the next generation of capital markets, products, and services. As we continue in our series with Forbes magazine Top Futures, Dr. Claire Nelson, she shares tech ideas for dealing with climate change. One of the things we want to just look at is Starlink was the immediate winner in the communications space during the Category 5 hurricane that we just experienced. So we want to really dig and find out what other tech ideas should Jamaicans embrace in this new climate reality. Doc, what do you say?
Wow, that's a big one. I mean, there's so many things that are happening in the sector. So let's look at the climate weather itself. We really could look at maybe having more prediction and have some apps that do a better job of predicting, such that it's passed down to farmers, for example, and then technologies that support the farmers in protecting more of their crop, if they can, for example. Depends, obviously, if it's an animal or plant, but I think there's some work to be done. They're using technology to better equip the farmer to prepare before they get the big hits. So that crops, for example, that near reaping can be reaped and stored and not just be left to waste in the field. So that's one, so it's climate finance. Obviously, for me as a space junkie, I am very hopeful that one of these days we'll have our own satellite and creating our own, but not necessarily for communication, but for things like precision agriculture and for monitoring the sea, which actually does get damaged as well in a hurricane. And we want to have that data gathering capability to prepare perhaps different kind of investment vehicles that can support the coastal zone and nature-based resilience things that need to take place. So there's another technology. How do we use technology to support the increase of the blue carbon bonds on these new instruments we're talking about? And indeed, increase our layman's understanding of these things. So technology also should be used to educate the consumer. Okay. I think on a third front, let's talk about technology such as solar technology. We know there was some damage, but we know that we need to look more at a microgrid approach. I mean, in a small island like this, which we know what's coming, we need to have many more microgrids around the island as opposed to big systems. So everything doesn't get taken out and we're not offline for as long as we have been, because we need to get back fast. We need battery technology. So the data servers that support the banks, for example, can be back up faster because we have the battery servers that are not in weather-prone areas. Maybe they're underground or somewhere, so we can be better prepared to come back online with basic things like how you get money, right?
Right.
So those are some technology things just off the top of my head. Water systems, right, that also can get cut down by a hurricane. How do we prepare technology to bring those things back on stream? So the whole issue is of time to recovery, technology for time to recovery, and also technology for better preparation.
Okay. Thank you very much, Doc.
Thank you.
For the trading period of January 28, 2026, the most actively traded securities were Dollar Financial Services Limited with 9,893,762 units, or 15.45% of market sales activities. Trans-Jamaica Highway Limited with 9,846,401 units, or 15.38% of market sales activities. Radio Jamaica Limited with 6,687,256 units, representing 10.44% of market sales activities. Investor activity remained concentrated in finance, transportation, and media plays, signaling continued interest in dividend-producing and strategic assets. Turning to the foreign exchange market based on Bank of Jamaica data for January 28, 2026, Forex traders recorded significant activity with strong demand across major currencies. For the US dollar, trading margins reflected steady liquidity, with the US selling at $157.62 and buying at $155.85. For the Canadian dollar, moderate gains supported by $2.18 transaction spreads. The Canadian dollar sold for $116.09 and was bought for $113.91. The British pound continued volatility, offering short-term trading gain opportunities of $2.55 in profits for the banks. The British pound sold for $216.02 and was bought for $213.47. These movements underscore the importance of cash flow timing and currency awareness for business managing import costs, debt servicing, or overseas exposure. For our credit report tip of the day, a credit report is a practical tool for climate change preparation because it determines how quickly and affordably you can invest in protection before impacts occur. Climate readiness requires upfront spending on solar power, water storage, home reinforcement, and higher insurance deductibles, costs that are often financed rather than paid in cash. A strong credit report lowers borrowing costs, increases access to green financing and utility programs, and allows timely action instead of delayed vulnerability. In this way, managing and improving your credit is not just financial housekeeping. It is a climate adaptation tool that enables preparedness, reduces long-term damage, and supports faster recovery in a climate-stressed economy. For our funded and focused feature, cash flow to your business from government contracts can be a strong source of revenue. One of the key gateways to this is accurate financial records that demonstrate control and reliability. Whether audited or internally prepared, statement must reflect actual operations. For businesses, it is important to focus on organizing financial documentation, maintaining consistency, and preparing records that can support contract bid, evaluation, and post-award audits. As an example, our client, Trevon, had do-it-yourself bookkeeping, which was inconsistent. With professional systems, Trevon's records became clean, defensible, and procurement ready. And that's today's business report. I'm Denise Williams, bringing clarity to capital markets and strategy. Until next time, stay informed, stay intentional, and keep building forward. See you soon.
In regional news, in the Bahamas, the Davis administration is pressing ahead with a legislative push it says will strengthen the Bahamas' response to climate change. Speaking in the House of Assembly, Prime Minister Philip Davis advanced two major climate bills he says are critical. The details in this Hour News report.
Climate change is not a forecast of the future. We are already living in the midst of it. And unfortunately, we have already felt its sting.
It was those comments that Prime Minister Philip Davis tabled the Climate Change and Environmental Advisory Unit Bill 2025 and the Climate Change and Carbon Markets Amendments Bill 2025 in Parliament this morning. From eroding coastlines to stronger storms arriving more frequently and with less warming, Davis says the cost of inaction is no longer theoretical. According to the Prime Minister, the Climate Change and Environmental Advisory Unit Bill 2025 is designed to modernize how climate policy is governed, consolidating responsibilities, improving coordination, and strengthening oversight across government.
Under this bill, overall responsibility for climate change and climate finance has been consolidated.
As part of the wider climate strategy, Davis also pointed to efforts to transform the country's energy sector, including expanded solar generation, while urging lawmakers to recognize the economic and environmental value of the Bahamas' vast seagrass meadows.
For too long, Global markets ignored their value. And for too long, countries like ours paid the price for their oversight.
That's where the second piece of legislation comes in. The Climate Change and Carbon Markets Amendment Bill 2025 would update the country's carbon markets framework, putting stronger rules and oversight in place as the Bahamas looks to play a bigger role in international carbon trading.
There is a significant demand for carbon credits that represent genuine environmental benefit, and the Bahamas is positioned to participate in those carbon markets responsibly with safeguards that protect our national interests while generating significant revenue.
Reporting for our news, I'm Delvado Emmanuel.
Inflation remains low and economic growth steady in Barbados. That's the assessment from Central Bank Governor, the Most Honorable Dr. Kevin Greenidge, who says the island recorded a fourth straight year of expansion in 2025, with real GDP growth of 2.7%. Speaking at a media briefing, Dr. Greenidge also noted that inflation averaged just 0.7%, while unemployment fell to 6.6%, as he outlined the economic outlook for 2026.
The top bank official says he expects the economy to remain on the strong growth trajectory in 2026. However, he cautioned that global political tensions and weather-related crises could derail the growth trajectory.
On the policy and stability side, government recorded a primary surplus of 3.3% of GDP, and the debt to GDP ratio fell to 94.6%. Credit expanded from 9 billion to 9.4 billion, and the banks reduced their non-performing loans portfolio from 4.1% to 3.6%.
The central bank governor says tourism continued to drive economic activity last year, with long-stay visitor arrivals up by 3.3% to just over 727,000 visitors, but arrivals from the UK were down.
This growth was led by the US market, that expanded by 8.1% and account for about 80% of the additional arrivals. Though the performance in the US market reflected additional flights from Boston, New York, Philadelphia, and Atlanta. Similarly, increased airlift capacity in the CARICOM market contributed to that market expanding by 6.1%. And we had ongoing marketing initiatives supported the increase in arrivals from Europe. And at the same time, the marketing also increased arrivals from Canada that rose by 3.5%.
Unemployment as well as inflation were reported down.
What this means in normal language is that more Bajans are working, supported by broad-based gains across multiple sectors of the economy. In terms of inflation, we continue to see an easing of pressures in 2025 as price pressures moderated across many various sectors. In fact, if you look at the chart, you can see below here represents some declines in certain areas, including clothing, utilities, household furnishing, transportation, recreation goods. And there was lower increases, they increased, but still lower as it relates to such things as food and beverages. And so collectively, the inflation rate has moderated.
Dr. Greenidge says outlook for this year is good.
That growth trajectory is largely underpinned by continued expansion in tourism, in business and other services, and in construction, both in private and public sector. Now, on the inflation side, things are tilted towards the lower end of our spectrum, which is between 1% and 2.5%. So we expect for this year, 2026, the moving average rate of inflation in 12 months to be closer to the 1%, and then settle towards 2% or 2.5% in the medium term.
The central bank governor also says real GDP is expected to grow from 2.5% to 3% and it could get up to 3.5% by the end of the year. Trevor Thorpe, CBC News.
The government of Trinidad and Tobago is making it clear that the mental and emotional well-being of children is a national priority. On Wednesday, the Ministry of the People, Social Development and Family Services launched its Mindful Me Journal, aimed at students aged 10 to 17 years, to help alleviate exam-related stress and anxiety. More from TTT News.
We want our children to succeed. We want them to excel. But we must also acknowledge the weight that expectations can place on young minds. To the students who are here today, we want to share with you, you are not alone. Your feelings matter. It is okay to feel nervous. It is okay to feel stressed or overwhelmed. And it is okay, most of all, to ask for help.
Minister of the People, Social Development and Family Services Vandana Mohit has acknowledged that the pressure surrounding examinations, particularly at the primary and secondary school levels, can be overwhelming for students. On Wednesday, the ministry launched their Mindful Me journals, a practical tool aimed at helping young people alleviate exam-related stress and anxiety.
Stress, anxiety, and fear of failure often become silent burdens carried into classrooms, carried into homes, and exam halls. The Mindful Me Journal is our way of putting people first and ensuring that our children of future are included in that process.
Shagona's Mayor Faiq Mohammed commended the ministry for placing students' well-being at the forefront of national development.
Initiatives like these help shape balanced, confident, and emotionally healthy citizens, which ultimately strengthens our communities and, most importantly, our nation.
And the Child Protection Officer at UNICEF, Bertrand Moses, said the launch of the journal is timely and practical.
Across Trinidad and Tobago, children and young people are crying out to us. Last year, we experienced, for the first time in history, a drastic increase in suicides. We have experienced a drastic increase in child and youth violence, and we noted at UNICEF for the Eastern Caribbean that the time has come for us to stop talking and support efforts critical such as these.
The Mindful Me Journal targets students 10 to 17 years old. Daniel John, TTT News.
In sports, we kick it with football. Jamaica's Reggae Girls under-17 head coach Marlon Hilton says the team is feeling confident and is focused on the task ahead. This after a 2-0 win over Aruba in the CONCACAF under-17 women's qualifiers on Tuesday. On that day, Rickwana Richards opened the scoring for Jamaica in the 46th minute, which set the tone for the rest of the game. Substitute Elizabeth Miller doubled the Jamaicans' lead in the 62nd minute, as the young Reggae Girls secured their first win of the campaign after the 1-1 result against Guyana on Sunday. Cavalier under-14s are set to participate in the Ascension Football Group Invitational 3-day tournament in the Cayman Islands. The inaugural tournament is set for January 30 to February 1. The 4-team tournament is also featuring under-14 teams from the United States-based clubs Inter Miami and New York Red Bulls, and the Cayman Islands national under-15 side. And with that, we call full time on today's news on PBCJ. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thanks for watching.